everyone, and welcome to Chef AJ Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. I'm meeting today's guest for the first time, and I can't wait because she has a new book coming out. It'll be available tomorrow in print. It's already available today in Kindle, and she's making one of my favorite recipes from childhood. She calls it sweet and savory root veggies and butternut squash. But those of us that grew up with this know it better as Tzimmes. And it's something my mom used to always make during the holidays. I think in Yiddish, it literally means it's a big deal because it is a big deal. Please welcome to the show, Felicia Slattery. It's so nice to meet you.
Hi, Chef AJ. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Me too. I can't. So you're in Tennessee.
I am. My husband and I moved here just about, it was almost to the day 6 years ago from Chicago area, where you're from.
That is something. I had no idea. So who are you in the plant-based world? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am brand new in the plant-based world, actually. Let's see, how far back should I go? So I started a business online. My kids were 1 and 3 years old. And it was about 2006. And I was a college professor at that time. I was teaching communication colleges at the university, or communication courses at the University of Illinois at Chicago and a few other places. And I just wanted to be home with my own kids. So I started a business out of my house, teaching the same kind of stuff that I was teaching at the university, public speaking and communication skills. Instead of teaching it to college students, I started teaching it to business professionals, and it worked out great. And I had a very nice, successful business. In 2012, I was diagnosed with non-smoking related lung cancer. And that led me I had zero risk factors, according to my doctors. I never smoked in my life. I didn't live with, near, or anywhere around smokers. I didn't work in an environment with smoke. I didn't work near radon or asbestos. I had zero risk factors for lung cancer. But there I was at 42 years old, and I was diagnosed with lung cancer. And the doctor said to me, "We'll never know why you got this." And to me, that was not good enough, because if I thought I was living a healthy life at that point. When I was in my early 20s, I bought my first little apartment condo by myself. And I learned about how the not so great things about dairy. So I quit dairy way back in the 90s. And I noticed within a month, my seasonal allergies that I had my entire life suddenly were gone, just from eliminating dairy, which back in the 90s, it wasn't as easy. There weren't as many, there was no internet that we could look at recipes to find easy, substitutes. So I was off dairy for a couple of years, and then it kind of seeped back in. And, I met my husband. He's a personal trainer. He was a football player. He played Division I college football. And so we were both into health. We went to the gym together every day until I got pregnant and started having babies. And then that went out the window. But so, we were living what I thought was a healthy life. I've always been a cook. When I was in high school, I got to a point in my career where when I graduated high school, the first thing I did when I was a freshman in high school was I took foods class, and I loved it. I wish high schools taught foods classes. They don't do it anymore. And it's just unfortunate. So I took every foods and nutrition class you could take when I was in high school, and I loved it. But my junior year, I tried out for the play. And the director of the play said, "Well, if you want to be in this play, you have to be on my speech team." And I said, "Okay, what's a speech team?" And that was when I was introduced to what became my career, which I did not know, because when I graduated high school, I'd been cooking for 4 years. I've been doing speech for 2. And I had worked in restaurants as a server and as a hostess, and I saw how hard those chefs busted their butts in the back of the restaurant. And in my 18-year-old mind, that was the only career that I understood or knew about. And I thought, that is just really hard. That's a hard life, being a chef on a line in a restaurant, every Friday and Saturday, and like busy. And I thought, I don't know if I really want that in my life. So, because I knew I wanted to be a mom someday, I want to have kids someday, and the whole thing. So I said, all right, well, let me go down this communication path, because I did get a scholarship to attend university for public speaking and communication, to be on the speech team at college. And so that was the path that I pursued rather than culinary school. Although interestingly, when I was a junior in college, I got to study abroad in Paris. And that's when I took just a couple of night classes. They weren't like big full-blown cordon bleu classes, but they were offered by the cordon bleu. And a few of my friends and I found our way. We got on the metro and we went, between the 3 of us, we figured out what they were saying. how to cook the food. And we just had a great time. And then fast forward, I got married and we had our kids. I wanted to be home with them. I started this business online. I started writing books. This cookbook is actually this plant-based slow cooker cookbook, which we'll be doing a recipe from today. This is my 7th book. So I've been an Amazon #1 bestselling author for years. My first book came out in 2010. And so I've got lots of books out there already. And so what happened in 2012, I had this lung cancer thing. The doctor said, we don't know why. I said, all right, that's not good enough. I got to figure this out. So that's when I went full bore into figuring out nutrition and health and all kinds of things. And so I ate gluten-free for several years, and that seemed to help some of my physical issues that I was experiencing, a lot of gut issues. And then I ballooned. And I tried keto for a couple of years, and I had never in my entire life, never had high cholesterol, never had any problems at all. I went to the doctor. My cholesterol was through the roof after 2 years on keto with, not plant-based keto. You can imagine what that looked like. It was horrible. And it scared me. And she said, my doctor was she was a naturopath, and she does other alternative kind of doctors things. And she said, you should try this plant-based thing. And my friend Kathleen Gage, who is you've been a guest on her podcast. She has a podcast called Plant-Based Eating for Health. And Kathleen and I have been mastermind buddies. We've spoken on the same stages for years, and she also has written lots of books and things. So we've been great friends. And she had been plant-based almost a year before I was, and she'd been talking about how great it was. And so I was already kind of thinking, maybe this plant-based thing sounds like it would be good. And so when I had that high cholesterol scare, and having had overcome lung cancer 8 years prior, I did not want that back again. I never want to hear those words, you have cancer, ever again. And so that's when I said, all right, I'll try this plant-based thing. And she said, I was concerned because I thought, I don't know, can I really do that? Like, I love to cook, and I started a food blog just for fun in 2013. And I love cheese and meat and, blah, 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 blah. And all the things that people say, right, in their brains, and how you're going to get enough protein, how you're going to get enough calcium, and all that junk that we all know, like, eat a potato is the answer to that question. Anyway, so she said, you don't have to go all the way in. You could do like 80-90%. And I thought, I could do 80-90%. And within probably 2 or 3 months, I would say I was 99% in. And the other 1% is like, I don't make a big deal of stuff when I go to somebody's house and they've made a nice, they know I eat plant-based. So they made a beautiful big plant-based salad and they threw feta cheese on there. And I'm like, well, because not everybody knows, they haven't gotten the word out, they don't know. Not everybody understands. So like, okay, a little tiny bit of that. And I mean, how much visiting were we doing in the last year anyway, right? So I would say I'm 100%, probably 99% of the time. So that's how much plant-based I am. So during the pandemic, as a professional speaker, that's what I did, was I would go out and I would go speak. And I also trained people who were speakers. I had a very nice 6-figure business for almost the entire time I was working from home. And then every event in the entire world shut down. And overnight, I went from a nice business to zero. And I panicked. I didn't know what to do. I mean, it was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I mean, I get some royalties from books, but that's not going to pay the mortgage. You know what I'm saying? So I started looking around, and I found this website online called outschool.com. And it's for people who are teachers. And Outschool teaches kids ages 3 to 18 subject. And having been a college professor, I thought, well, I could teach my communication classes. I've taught online forever from home. So I can go back and teach the young students because all the kids suddenly were not in school anymore. So they were all online, and parents were like, oh my gosh, what do we do? So Outschool was a great place for kids to go. It was a great place for people who needed to be able to teach something to go. So I got approved pretty quickly to teach there. And then within about a week of being on the platform, I learned that I could teach a cooking class. And I was like, hot diggity, I could teach a cooking class. And so I put out a plant-based cooking camp because, not why just teach one time for an hour when you can go all in and teach every day for a week. That's what I did first time out of the gate. And I stood right here in this spot And I fell in love with teaching cooking to my teen students. My classes sold out all summer. It was fabulous. My friend Kathleen was in contact with the publisher, and they asked her if she would write a book. She said, "No, I'm not a recipe. I can barely cook. So I throw stuff in the crock pot, and it's like I have 2 recipes, and that's all I know." But my friend Felicia cooks all up a storm, and so I got introduced through to the publisher, and here we are. So this is my pandemic pivot, and I am loving it. Having a great time.
I love that. The pandemic. This show is my pandemic pivot. I love. Never heard that term. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I love it.
So why slow cooker? Because I'm an Instant Pot girl. So convince me why I do have a slow cooker, but it takes a long time compared to an Instant Pot.
It does. So, okay. So here's my secret, which isn't really a secret. When the publisher reached out to me, so this particular publisher, they do research and they find niches that need to have books for them. And then they find authors. So that's a very different way, as you well know, from having your own books. It's a different way of going about publishing. And so they had done the research and realized that there weren't a lot of, there was probably a couple slow cooker cookbooks for plant-based eaters. And so that's what they offered me. And at that time, I had not used my crock pot in, I don't even know, 3 years, because like you don't need to make slow food it's a carrot. You can eat it raw, So, and I had the Instant Pot back there, but they offered it to me and I said, why not? And as I got into it, I would have 3 crock pots rolling at a time when I was in test prep mode for the recipes. And I'll tell you what, I loved it. I was like, I forgot how much I love my crock pot, because you just dice and dump. You dice your stuff up, you go out, you do your shopping for the day, you go to work for the day, you go run around with the kids and do all the stuff. If you're a parent, people or parents know what I'm talking about. Like, you got to run all over the place. You get home at 7 o'clock at night and you're like, oh, what are we having for dinner? Oh yeah, I put everything in the crock pot earlier. It's ready when you get home. So it's just a really fantastic tool that I think not enough people in the plant-based community have embraced. So I've got 100 recipes in the book that show you this is an awesome tool to have and use. And by the way, if you have an Instant Pot, you already have a slow cooker. The only thing you need to do is you need to get yourself, you could see on my Instant Pot over there, that's the pre-prepared meal, so that when we're, after we get everything in the pot, I'll show you what it looks like once it's cooked. There's a button on there that says slow cook. You just push that button and you got a slow cooker right there in your Instant Pot if you're an Instant Pot person. And you just need the special lid. That's the one difference, is that, and the lid you can buy, I think it's $20 on Amazon. And I'm sure you got an affiliate link.
That's fantastic. Yeah. That's amazing. I didn't think about that. Your Instant Pot is a slow cooker.
It is. So you don't need to go out and buy, a whole special big old thing, or try to find one at the Goodwill or your grandmother's house or whatever. Like, if you got an Instant Pot, you got one. So I'm going to start cooking, if that's okay with you. I'm looking at the clock. But if you do have a traditional crock pot, this is a 6-quart crock pot that I have had for, I don't know how many years. And I'll tell you what, these, I know if you're not a plastics person, you're going to be mad at me, but these bags are just a little lifesaver. And I line my crock pot with it, not because I'm lazy, but because I made a giant mistake one day. I thought, sometimes recipes, they ask you to, which is another great thing about the Instant Pot for slow cooking. Sometimes they ask you to saute your onions and garlic before you put them in the crock pot. Well, I was in a hurry one day, long time ago, and I thought, oh, I'll just put this right on my gas burner. And then I heard a giant pop. Don't ever do that. So this is that same pot. It didn't break, but it has a nice crack in it. And I found out the really hard way that liquid seeps a little bit. It was all over my counter. So I just used this little thing because it's still a perfectly good deal. And I don't like to have to get rid of perfectly good appliances when I don't have to. So, all right. So I just lined my slow cooker. I'm going to put the lid here out of the way. And so it depends. How do you pronounce this recipe? It's a traditional Jewish holiday kind of a thing. And your family says
Tzimmes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So some say Tzimmes. I've seen it seam, and I've seen it Tzimmes. So it depends on which grandmother you ask, I think. in the pronunciation of it. And this was not a dish that I had growing up. I grew up with Italian grandparents, and they were in the back. My grandfather was a butcher. That's ironic, being a plant-based person now. But they were making handmade ravioli and lasagna noodles and the whole bit. So I'm just going to get started here. I've got a couple of yellow skin potatoes. You could use red skin potatoes for this. And I'm just going to chop these. I don't peel mine. I try to not peel as many vegetables as possible because, there's lots of good nutrition in those. And I'm just going to cut these into about an inch and a half chunks, something that would fit on a fork and you could put it in your mouth, right? And I just keep my slow cooker right here and I dump everything just right in. Like I said, I'm just dice and drop. It's easy. So that's my one. There's two. And you could use, as I said, you could use red potatoes for this. I chose not to use russets for this because I feel like they're a little extra starchy, and I've got a couple other starchier things. So I like the waxiness of these yellow potatoes. So in goes a yellow potato. And this is, of course, our friend, the sweet potato. So we're going to use one sweet potato, and I'm just going to chop off kind of the funky ends. And I've got what I call my veggie broth bowl. So I just keep an odds and ends bowl here. And a little tip is I keep them frozen in the freezer in just a bag in the freezer. And then once my bag fills up, well, actually multiple bags fill up and I run out of broth, I'd fill up a big giant pot on the stove, or you could use your crock pot for that. Just put all your odds and ends in the crock pot, fill it with water, cover it. 8 hours later, you got free broth. And then you can put all your stuff in the compost bin. So rather than wasting it, get the nutrition out of those and you got free broth. So I'm just going to chop this sweet potato, and it's a little bit wants to roll around on me. So there we go. So I'm going to get this into the pot. This is really the hardest part about this recipe, honestly, is dealing with these extra hard starchy vegetables because they're not the easiest to chop when they're raw, but it's fine. There we go. You make it happen. You need a sharp knife. That's all. Sharp knife, clean hands. You're ready to cook any day. All right. So this was one sweet potato, and it seems weird. Like there's one sweet potato. Yeah. Cause there's a lot of root veggies in this, and it makes it really beautiful colors. Actually, when you're eating them. All right, so we have that. Let's do an onion because I heard your guests earlier today. Everything starts with an onion, right?
That's what I've been saying. And they say that's what I heard a French chef once say, that all French cooking starts with an onion. And I said, well, all cooking starts with an onion.
Really? I mean, it's fantastic. And I would say in my cookbook, probably 80% of them start with an onion, even the breakfasts. Because I've got a couple of breakfast recipes in there. I don't have onion in the granola though. So this one's got kind of a funky edge on it. I'll just chop that off. Sometimes you get an onion like that. You never know what you're going to get till you peel it.
People are asking, Felicia, is it safe to leave your house with the crock pot on? Absolutely.
You want to make sure that it's on a countertop that is it's got to be flat, a flat surface, and you want to put it somewhere that is heat resistant. So that's all. I mean, and a Formica countertop, if that's what you've got, is absolutely fine. There's no problem with that at all. And you don't want to put it on your stove at all. Certainly don't turn the stove on while it's on, like I did, dummy.
Yeah. People have done that, like with the top of their Instant Pots, and burned the top.
Yeah. I mean, it just, when you think about it afterwards, you go, that was really not the smartest thing I could have done. But in the moment, you're like, oh, this might work.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's why Instant Pot started putting those things in where you can actually, hook the top on the side so that people would stop doing that.
Exactly. So, all right. So in goes the onion. All right. So let's deal with the hardest vegetable, kind of the biggest pain in the butt is your butternut squash. Now you can actually buy butternut squash frozen if you want and just toss them in. You can buy butternut squash pre-cut at the grocery store, and that is fine. But how I peel mine, I've already done it because it takes a little bit and it's a little bit slidey, a little bit slimy. I always hold it with a towel, just a tea towel, and that's how I peel it so it doesn't slide out of my hand and I don't accidentally I don't know, hurt myself in some way, shape, or form. So the recipe calls for a small butternut squash. I would say this one's probably a little bit more on the medium side. So I don't think I'm going to use the full butternut squash. Really, this recipe is very forgiving. It depends on how many people you're feeding. If you're feeding a lot of people, then get a medium to larger size butternut squash, right? If you're not feeding a whole lot of people, then use a small one. So really whatever you want to do. And we'll talk about the liquid that's going in just a little bit. And that's also easy to adjust because we're using broth, we're using fresh squeezed orange juice and a little bit of date syrup to sweeten it up just a bit. So Chef AJ, when you had this growing up, was this kind of a sweet dish for you?
Yes. My mom used prunes in it.
Prunes. Okay. Yeah. Prunes are good. You could put prunes in this, but I mean, dates are like our best friend in the plant-based world. So I always have dates in the house and raisins. We're going to use some raisins in here. So those are ingredients that I just always happen to have. In fact, most of these ingredients, other than the yam, which we're going to discuss in a second, are all very, like I could make this probably most days of the week because these are things that I typically will have on hand. You know, and that's something that I think a lot of folks that are newer to plant-based eating need to just think about and learn is like, okay, what are the food groups that we could have in the house? What do I need to buy when I go to the grocery store so that I have ingredients and I can make stuff? And it's not that hard once you kind of get going with it and you realize, okay, I'm going to need potatoes. I'm going to need quinoa. I'm going to need rice. I'm going to need whatever other veggies, leafy veggies and that kind of thing. So just put that together. My older daughter is now in college. She was 3 when I started my business. So people have watched her grow up online with me. It's just so fun. And one day she came home from college and she looked in my pantry exasperated. She goes, "You just have ingredients in here." Like she was going to find chips or something.
That's hilarious. Hey, Diane just paid you a nice compliment. She said you remind her of Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Oh, well, thanks, Diane. That was nice.
This is off topic, but Lisa said you have the best sound. What kind of microphone are you using? I guess as a person that, taught speech, that's important to be heard.
Yes. Well, the cool thing is I went out today and I bought a fancy camera because I was like, why is my video lagging? But so I got a new camera too, but this is a Blue Yeti microphone and you can see, I just keep it right here. I don't have it attached to me, but and I've got it on omnidirectional for anybody who wants to geek out on that kind of stuff. I'm happy to do that any day of the week. But anyway, it's a Blue Yeti and it's an upgraded kind of a USB microphone. It plugs right into the computer and I use it as opposed to the mic that is attached to the webcam. I was thinking of the fancy word. I was like looking at Logitech, like that's not it, to the webcam. So anyway, so it's a Blue Yeti and it's a great, fantastic type of high-end microphone that works great for podcasting. I had a radio show for a couple of years that I did here in town. So anything you could do with a microphone, I did it. You know what I'm saying? So, all right, this is a yam. This is actually a Japanese yam. And I actually went to the Asian market to grab this because they don't sell yams in my regular grocery store. But a lot of grocery stores do sell yams. Now, if you can't find a yam at your grocery store and you don't want to run all over town looking for one, I happen to know my Asian grocery store has one and I'm very close to it. So very easy for me. And I also, Chef AJ, on your show, probably in the last maybe month or two, you had another cooking demo and a woman came on and she was talking about making chips with those little round things. I got them. I was so excited. I bought them that day. These thingies.
Yeah. The Mustrad. Sure.
The Mustrad. I have to confess, I love a potato chip. I just do. And I bought the Japanese yam and I made it. I put it on my Mustrad and we went into the microwave. I was like, this is a game changer. I can have a chip any day of the week with no oil, no salt, and they're amazing. So I buy these in bulk.
Right. Now, I'm curious, Felicia, you mentioned you don't like to peel. How come you're peeling that one? You didn't peel the butternut squash or the orange sweet potato?
I did peel the butternut squash.
Oh, you did? Okay.
The show. Yeah, I peeled it before the show. The orange sweet potato to me, I feel like I don't, I've eaten lots of peels of sweet potatoes growing up, just before I was plant-based, with butter and brown sugar and all that nonsense on there. So I know that eating the peel of that works out really well. I kind of felt like the yam might have been a little tougher. So one day I'll try it without peeling it. I'll be busy or lazy or both and decide not to do that. But so you could peel the carrot, you could not peel the carrot. I like to peel my carrots for two reasons. Number one, I can taste the extra minerally flavor when you don't peel the carrot, which I know some people like, but I personally don't care for it. And also, I now have carrot peels in my veggie broth, so to make my veggie broth with. So it's okay. It's not going down the drain. They're just going in my veggie broth bowl, which is getting full here. And so this recipe calls for 4 carrots. And if you don't happen to have 4 big carrots, you want to, again, you don't want to go through the peeling if you're going to peel them, or you don't want to go through the chopping, or you're busy, you can absolutely just buy baby carrots. Throw a couple of bags of baby carrots in there and call it done, right? I mean, like there's lots of ways that you can shortcut this when you are home cooking for yourself. In fact, I thought I had more carrots than I did in the house when I was making this recipe earlier today, and I did not. So I have 2 full-size carrots in my pre-made one, and then I just put half a bag of baby carrots in the other one. So I'll have baby carrots in that one, and carrot's a carrot. They taste good, and it's all the same. So I'm just, like I said, peeling these, and then the skin's going to go in my veggie broth for later, and that is just fine. And then these I'm just going to cut into kind of, I would say almost not quite 1-inch size coins. We don't want them to cook too fast because they'll kind of turn to mush, and we don't want them to turn to mush. So they're going in. So we've got some really beautiful yellows and whites, and of course the oranges in our pots here. And they're really looking good. So, all right, got our carrots. And then the last thing that we're going to peel, and we'll talk about why we peel that. The last thing we're going to peel are 2 apples, because we've got some sweet component to this Tzimmes. And apples are great in the slow cooker because they break down and they add a delicious sweetness. It's almost like applesauce is going to be coating everything, but it doesn't have an applesauce texture. I don't know how to describe it. So 2 apples, whatever kind of apples you like. These were Fiji, I think. And I peel these because when I make applesauce, I don't peel them. I make the applesauce with the peel, and then I puree it, and it's delicious like that. But for me, when you slow cook apples, the apple peel kind of gets a little bit funky in the slow cooker. So I'm avoiding the funkiness. But again, if you're in a hurry, absolutely, you can eat the apple peel. It's fine. And you can put that in there. So this is the last thing that we are peeling. It comes together. I mean, I'm talking the whole time, so obviously it's taking me a little bit longer, but it comes together pretty quickly. One of the nice things about this cookbook is I had a rule, and one of the rules was I could not have any prep time longer than 20 minutes. So every recipe, your prep time is 20 minutes or less for getting everything
I love that. That's great. So Marcy says, how come the plastic liner won't melt? What is the temperature of pressure of not pressure cookers in slow cookers?
I don't know the answer to that. I know that it's very low, obviously, because we're cooking for many hours, but I don't know the answer to that question. And that's a great question. And now I'm going to have to go find it when we're done.
I'll see if I can Google it, but obviously you've done this before and the plastic hasn't melted.
Oh, all the time. Yeah. And they actually make these liners specifically. Reynolds, the people that make foil, Reynolds wrap people, they have liners, but then there's also like the generic grocery store brands. So I'm taking the core out of my apples here, and then we will get these chopped up and we will pop them in, and then we'll get to work on our sauce, which is so yummy with this. I really love it. And I don't usually have a mouse on my board. All right. So I've cut them in halves and then quarters and then one more time. So just again, nice bite-sized chunks are going right in. And really kind of no rhyme or reason because it all just piles up in there. One of the great things about a slow cooker, which is different than the Instant Pot, if you're used to an Instant Pot has a maximum, because if you fill it too high, really bad things can happen, right? Very unsafe to fill it too high in Instant Pot. A slow cooker is the opposite. If you don't fill it high enough, the food burns. So you've got to have a minimum amount of food in your slow cooker, but you can fill your slow cooker all the way up and everything will cook just fine. So, so this may look like, it seems like it might be a lot of food in here, which it is a lot of food, but it's not too much for a slow cooker. Everything in the cookbook was made for a 6-quart slow cooker. So, that's what we got going on. All right. So now the recipe calls for the juice of 2 oranges. I've already juiced one, and the zest of one of those oranges. So I'm just going to use my handy dandy little microplane grater here. And I'm just going to grate it straight into the Instant Pot.
Okay, I looked it up and it said a slow cooker on low is about 200 degrees and high is about 300 degrees.
I was going to guess 200. So thank you I didn't want to say the wrong thing.
Saved you some time. And Marcy said, how do you know if you can still use a butternut squash? Do they do anything when they get old?
Yeah, they get soft and they're smushy and nasty. Like when you pick it up, you'll go, oh yeah, I shouldn't be eating this. And then you can put it in your compost bin. I would not put that in my veggie broth at that point. That's how you know, but they'll last for months. That's just kind of the deal with those hard winter squash. They will last for a good while from harvest. Now you don't know, if you didn't grow it yourself in your own garden, you don't know how many days, weeks, or months it was from the time it got, from the harvest to your grocery store. So it could already be, sometimes they keep them in cold storage before they ship them to the grocery store. So, I mean, it could be, it already could be a month old by the time you get it at your grocery store. And that's fine because they last for a while. And I just keep mine on the counter. And this is actually one of my baskets that I use. And I keep my winter squash in my baskets. And I've got a spaghetti squash over there and an acorn squash over there. And they're just waiting for me to cook them one day. So,
do you ever use Kabocha squash? That's my favorite. That's what I had for lunch. I cook it in the Instant Pot and then I air fry it. It's so good.
I have not. And I'm just branching out to more squashes recently. And I really do love different kinds of squash. I love patty pan squash. Have you had those?
Yes, they're smaller than
they're the little small ones. They're really pretty. Like if you're trying to make a fancy dinner and impress people, patty pan squash, there's your deal. All right, so I've got a cup of veggie broth in here, and I'm just going to mix all the sauce ingredients here in my big measuring cup so that I can kind of distribute my seasonings and my I've got a 1/4 cup of date syrup. I just made this date syrup today for you, Chef AJ. Because I know you're not a maple syrup lady.
No, that's impressive that you make your own.
Well, there's a recipe for it in the book.
Well, that's fantastic. People can save money.
Easy. It is. It's really, really easy. So it's a 1/4 cup. So we're not using a lot. And if you've used date syrup before, it's very intense, the flavor. So, but yeah, I just make my own, and I do lots of home cooking stuff. So it's very easy. All right. Last few things here. I got to put my raisins in. So I've got a 1/2 cup of golden raisins. If you don't have golden raisins, use brown. It's fine.
But golden are better. They really are.
I know. I like them. But I don't always have, that's one of the things that I don't always have. I usually have currants, teeny tiny sort of raisins. And I always have brown raisins, but I don't always have the golden ones. So these are dates, and I am just pitting the dates with my fingers. I don't buy them pitted. I don't know. I kind of feel like once they get pitted, it starts to get them a little bit drier in the container. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. Maybe that's just my own mental bias against pitted dates. So it's just as easy enough to pull them apart, and there you go. So I'm just going to 1/4 these, and then into the pot they're going to go. And so you can see we've got kind of a sweet sensation going on here with our dinner, a little sweet, a little bit savory, which I really like. Sometimes I get in the mood for a little bit of a sweet or savory thing. Sometimes people like a sweet breakfast, but then they like a savory breakfast. So I don't discriminate. I love them all. Love them all. All right. So then my raisins are dates are in there. I've got I need to do 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. So here's 1, here's 2. Oop, that was a little extra. It's okay. Won't hurt anybody. There's 2. And then a teaspoon of ginger. Now you can choose to grate your own ginger, which I always have ginger, the rhizome in my freezer. And generally I do that, but at this point, here's the secret. At this point, when I was making the recipe, I was like, okay, I'm just tired of like doing stuff and I just got to get things in. So, so if you have ginger powder, that works fine. Already ground ginger. So that's our sauce. Very simple. And it's just going to go right in here. Now, I know that you are not a salt user, Chef AJ, and many of your folks are not. And in this particular cookbook, salt is always listed as an optional ingredient. There are no recipes that contain oil, no recipes that contain refined sugars. I got a lot of date syrup and maple syrup, though, I'm not going to lie. And you can use date syrup and maple syrup interchangeably in the recipes. So when there's sweetness that's needed, I'm either using applesauce, dates, raisins, date syrup, whatever. So that's it.
That's fantastic. Well, Kelly says, I love her, and she just bought the book on Kindle.
Well, thank you, Kelly. That is so cool. Hey, so speaking of people getting the book, can we do a giveaway?
I mean, yeah. How do we do it fairly? Sure.
Well, let's see. So most of your folks are watching on YouTube, yes?
Yes. That's why I really encourage people on Facebook to leave Facebook. So I can leave Facebook because it's a 5-to-1 ratio. So I can tell you, yeah, it's usually 5 times. Yep. Almost 5 times as many, more than 5 times, 6 or 7 times as many people that are watching on Facebook are watching on YouTube.
Okay. So if you're on Facebook right now, go over to YouTube. We're going to give you a second.
We'll give you a minute.
We're going to give away 2 books.
That is so generous of you.
So we'll do the first round right now. So if you're on Facebook, don't panic. Just come on over. We'll see you in a second. And so just go ahead in the comment section. I want you to comment. I want that book. Really easy. I want that book. And what your favorite veg is. How about that? I want that book. Right. My favorite veg is what? Okay. And then Chef AJ, you can randomly.
Well, should we make it, maybe ask them a question, like something that they have to think about, like, why do you want that book? Just so it's, because everybody wants the book, right? But yeah.
All right. So yeah, why do you want the book? That'll be good. Why do you want the book?
Yeah. And then we'll, in US only, right? Just to be clear.
Yes, so. US only. Right now. I'm sorry. Yeah. Canada and UK and Australia and New Zealand and everywhere
so
else.
We know you want the book, but why do you want that book? And US only, please. And if you're on Facebook, you got to hop over on YouTube, because unfortunately we don't see your comments in the chat when you're on Facebook. You see mine, but I don't see yours.
All right. So I just pushed the go button here on my Crock Pot, and it is a Crock Pot brand. I'll tell you, when they asked me to do the book, they said slow cooker. And I was like, you mean like a Crock Pot? And she said, yes. And I didn't know they were called anything but a Crock Pot. But apparently Crock Pot is a brand. And I found out they were invented by the same guy who made the lava lamps. True. So now you learned something today. All right. So I've got my, I put it on. I'm going to go to high. I can put it on high. I'm going to go high cook for, where are we? For 3 hours and 30 minutes. And I'm going to push start. You heard the beep. I'm done. And actually 3 hours and 30 minutes ago or so, I started that one, and I've got my fingers crossed that it was going to work. I was like, I should have probably started it a little earlier just in case, but I cut the veggies small enough. So that's also a trick with the slow cooker. If you know you're going to be out for a longer period, some of the recipes call for cooking on low for 8 to 10 hours. For example, like this one is an 8 to 10 hour one, right? It is 8 to 10 hours. So that's like a 2-hour period. It seems like a long period. If you leave it in for 10 hours, it isn't going to be smushy. Well, yeah, if you cut it too small, it will be smushy. So cut your pieces a little bit bigger if you're going to be away a little bit longer, or you plan to cook it a little bit longer, and then they won't be smushy. And then, but they'll be easy enough that you can still eat them with a fork. You won't need to cut them with a knife or anything like that. So forks over knives, the whole thing. So Just cut your pieces a little bit bigger if you need to cook a little bit longer. If you're in a little bit more of a hurry and you didn't get to the grocery store and you didn't get home until 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and you're like, my family's going to be wanting dinner at 6. What do I do? Well, just throw it in the pot. Just cut it a little bit smaller. That's it. And put it on high. So you've got high or low. With the Instant Pot slow cooker function, the Instant Pot slow cooker function is interesting. There's like 3 levels. You have to play with a little bit and just play with the buttons, but there's 3 levels. I would say the lowest level is pretty much good for nothing. So I wouldn't use that one. The medium, think of as slow cooker type thing, low, and then the high is a good high. So don't use the lowest. If you're going to go low, use the medium. So use medium or high if you're using the Instant Pot as a slow cooker, which it wasn't necessarily designed to do, but they put the button there. And I said, well, wait, let me see. So I tested these recipes in the 6-quart one. I tested them in my Instant Pot, and I tested them in a little 1.2 quart little appetizer size thing. And I have some appetizers in there. I had made a crispy chickpea appetizer in there, and little chickpea snackers. They're so good when you dry them out, and they're crunchy. Like if you've ever liked beer nuts or wasabi peas, these are better and healthier. Because I don't even know what a beer nut is. That just sounds weird, but they're super, super crunchy. And you can decide, like, if you really love that super, super crunchy, then leave them in until they get extra dried out. If you don't love them super, super crunchy and you don't want to, you're scared you're going to break a tooth or a filling or something, then just take them out when they're less hard. Just take them out before they get too hard. So, and there's a whole recipe on that as well. So everything is in there.
So when you had your cancer diagnosis and when you started to go to plant-based, did anyone in your family join you in your journey?
So my family is pretty used to me doing whatever I want to do in the kitchen because I am the only person who cooks in our house. I take that back. Both my teenage girls now cook. When they were little, so they've always cooked with me. I'll be like, here, help mommy stir this water in a pot, in a bowl. Like, oh, you're doing a good job. So, and then I taught my girls math through fractions and cooking and everything. So anyway, so I'm the only one who cooks. My husband initially he was on board with the plant-based, and he, as a personal trainer, he's a very large man. He's 6'4" tall. He's got a 50 inches shoulders and a 36-inch waist. He works out for a living. He looks like he's still a linebacker in his 40s. He's a giant man. And he only reads workout people stuff. And what are they all about? Protein, 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 protein. And so he was like, but I was like, listen, you can get plenty of protein. And we talked about it and everything. And this was before Game Changers obviously came out. And so he was on board. And then he was in the bathroom a lot. And he's like, I can't do this. Oh, there's my Instant Pot. It's done. He was like, I can't do this. And makes me sick. And I'm sick to my stomach. And I was like, but, and I didn't know enough at the time to understand Fiber Fueled wasn't out by Dr. Will yet. So, or Dr. B, I guess he goes by, but who I think you've had as a guest before. So I was like, I don't know what to tell you, babe, but I think if you just muscle through it, it'll be fine in a couple of weeks. And he was not having it. So that was that. But I'm the only one who cooks at home. So he eats plant-based whenever I make food, which is every single day. So nice. And my younger daughter, she, during the pandemic, when she was in 8th grade, she and I went on she graduated 8th grade, and she's a sophomore in high school now. We went on a little mom and daughter trip together, and I happened to snap a photo of her and she was sideways, and she was cute. She was a cheerleader, and she was active, and I was feeding my kids. This was before I started cooking and eating plant-based. So I thought everybody was eating healthy at my house. And so when the pandemic hit, that trip was in June. The pandemic hit the following March, and I started eating plant-based in July. So we went on a trip in June. I started eating plant-based in July. And then in April, she walked by me and she had on a cute little sports bra and a little pair of shorts, because everybody was in their house, not going anywhere. And she walked by me sideways. I was sitting on the couch and I said, oh my gosh. And I snapped a picture of her. She lost 25 pounds. This kid did, my dad and my sister and like a lot of folks on my dad's side of the family, they're just like, we say big boned, right? And so my daughter had broad shoulders and she's just like a bigger girl. And so we never in my life, in my family, we don't talk about, oh, you need to go on a diet or you need to lose weight, especially with my kids who are relatively healthy sizes and all of that, normal clothes sizes and things like that. But when my daughter started eating plant-based 24/7, because nobody was going anywhere, so she wasn't going out and sneaking a milkshake with friends or, drinking a Coke at school, any of that stuff, right? Like, I was cooking every day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And that's all she ate. And she got super lean and super healthy. And suddenly she was wearing her sister's size 2 clothes down from a size like 11. And so, and again, she was active. She was a cheerleader. She was all these things. So it's just an amazing thing. So, my family, as long as the food is delicious, they'll eat what I put in front of them and they'll be happy about it. I have a couple, the couple things. My younger one doesn't love the texture of cooked mushrooms, but she'll eat a raw mushroom. So, okay. My mom, when she comes over, she doesn't love cilantro. She's got that gene that makes cilantro taste like soap, everything that it's in. So I just, when I make whatever I'm making that has cilantro in it, I do everything and then put her serving off to the side. And then I put cilantro in for everybody else and everybody's happy. So yeah, works out.
That is fantastic. Well, there's so many wonderful posts, but I think you'll like this one. And I hope you're in the US because it's US only. And if you're still watching, Wendy Kennedy, give us your email. I want that book because I work long hours, but still want to prepare healthy meals for my family.
Oh, that's perfect. I love it. All right. Well, congratulations. All right. We got one more to give away. Let's see how my Instant Pot did here.
We'll do a different question for the second giveaway, guys. It's just too easy to say the same thing again. We like you to think a little bit.
I just unplugged my Instant Pot from the wall to bring it over here, just to kind of make it easy. So this is what the lid looks like, and I'm not going to touch it. It's not too hot actually, but we'll be safe. So this difference between the Instant Pot, the way it works, the pressure cooking for people who don't necessarily know. So with an Instant Pot, you've got that lid, it locks on, so no steam escapes at all. That steam presses into the food, and that's why the food cooks so quickly. So it's under that extreme pressure, which is why it also has to lock, because old pressure cookers, the lids used to pop off and it was dangerous and scary and the whole thing. So, but Instant Pot put this little slow cooker thing on there. But if you lock the lid, the way that slow cooking works is it builds up steam and the juices, but the steam has to be able to escape from the pot. So there's actually a little hole in this special lid and it escapes a little bit out the sides. It's not like gushing out of the sides. It's not gushing out of the top. It's just allowing that little bit of steam moisture to come out to allow this moist cooking environment for the food. And so I would say that's the biggest difference between the slow cooker and the Instant Pot is obviously slow, but if you're using your Instant Pot, you would use it. I was going to use a spoon. I was like, I'm not going to get any sauce.
That's for when you're on a diet.
Right.
Hey, so Felicia, Kathleen Gage says, could you please let Felicia know I'm watching?
Hi, Kathleen. So Kathleen is the reason that we're here together. You were on Kathleen's show. She is a brilliant marketing strategist, and she is all in with the vegan market, helping vegan professionals market their businesses. And she's putting together a summit and all kinds of cool stuff. And she's got a podcast, and she's partially the reason that I am plant-based. And she is the exact reason why I have this cookbook, because she introduced me also, not only to Chef AJ, but she introduced me to the publisher. So hi, Kathleen.
Wow, what a great friend. Another recipe I love in your book is you have your own homemade version of chipotle peppers and adobo sauce. And I love that because they always have sugar and salt and oil in them, the canned.
They do. And and that's so sad. It's like, you can't, you literally cannot find them. So here in West Knoxville, the University of Tennessee is here, and it's the biggest university in the state. So we attract a diverse group of people from around the world. It is a fabulous place to live if you love to cook, because there are grocery stores for every ethnicity up and down the main drag, which is so cool. So I went to, I can't tell you how many grocery stores looking for canned Chipotle chilies that didn't have salt or oil in them. You cannot find them. They're made with oil. And at the beginning of this, like I said, I ballooned up and I was like, I need to lose me some weight. So I've lost about 20 or so pounds since I've started. And I just made this little salad earlier. Actually, I made it yesterday for Mother's Day. We went on a hike. We live very close to the Smoky Mountains here in Knoxville. We're in the foothills of the Smoky Mountains. And so we went on a hike yesterday and I packed a picnic and I made chickpea salad sandwiches or roll-ups, actually wraps. And then with plant strong wraps, you know, that are made special for eaters like us. But this is just really simply tomatoes and cucumbers. There's a little red wine vinegar in here because, you know, vinegar is good with everything almost, I think, in the whole world. So,
well, speaking of vinegars, do you know you you don't win, but you receive 2 free bottles of California balsamic just for being on this show.
So excited. So I thought, you know, something a little fresh on the side. I've got some arugula in there. I'll probably mix a little arugula mixed in here so I get some more greens because you can never have too many green leafies. Even if you have a big salad at lunch, why not have a little extra at dinner too? So, all right, let's give this thing a taste. So remember, no salt in here, obviously no oil, no sugar per se, but we've got a lot of sweetness. We've got the dates have kind of smushed down, which is fabulous. And the apples are not looking like apples anymore because they have mushed down. The raisins have reconstituted a little bit. So they look kind of like little baby grapes again. So yummy because they've been in that delicious sauce. And I'm going to grab a little bit of everything. Let's see. It's super hot. It just came out. Burn my mouth. Oh my gosh. It's so good. I love this one. The ginger and the cinnamon, they are a perfect marriage for these specific kind of vegetables. And you put that orange with it and the orange zest, the oil from the orange zest, which is just a teeny tiny, you know, if you're an essential oils person, that's where the essential oil is. It lives in the zest of your citrus and it just permeates everything. That's why I zest the one orange. So yummy. My family is going to be so happy with me. And it's a good thing because I have 2 things of it.
Maybe you could freeze some of it.
Absolutely, you can freeze it. In fact, that's another one of the things that we have in the cookbook is if you can pretty much freeze everything that's in there. If you can't, it says don't freeze it. And if you can freeze pretty much everything for up to 3 months in your freezer and take it out and defrost it. And it's every bit as good as when you first tried it. I'm gonna have another bite because it's really that good.
Wow, I remember my mom's Tzimmes was great, except it had meat. So I would just pick the meat out.
Yep, because you've been vegan
like 44 years.
I was going to say like your whole adult life almost, right?
Yeah, pretty much since the day I left home, September 1st, 1977.
Wow. Well, you know, I was so inspired by you. I can't tell you right now how excited I am to be here because your story was probably one of the very first stories of going plant-based. And I saw, it was a video from one of the presentations that you did at Dr. McDougall's camp. And it was just so touching about how you overcame so many things that you overcame in your life and, you know, the eating challenges that you experienced and went through and that pain and just everything. And then was it Dr. Lyle who said to you, you know, if you tried to cut out a little bit of nuts, you might notice you could lose some more weight. And you cut out the nuts and you're like, dang it, he was right. So I just was so inspired by your stories and now I'm here on your show. What?
Well, thank you. Hey, Barb says, can you please hold up the book again? In case we don't win, we can see the title. And I've been posting the link all along. You can still buy it. It's available on Kindle today and in print tomorrow. And it's a wonderful book.
And you can go to plantbasedhomecooking.com. There's a link to it right there. That's my brand new website, finished at 3 a.m. So just for your show, but so if things aren't working, I apologize. It's just brand new baby website, but plantbasedhomecooking.com is the website. And I've got my new YouTube channel and I go live on Facebook fairly frequently. In fact, I've been going live on Facebook since the only people that could go live on Facebook were people with iPhones in the app. So I was one of the first people to go live on Facebook. And so I go live there fairly frequently. So my first handful of videos that I just downloaded and popped over to my new YouTube channel were Facebook Live. So, but I am now building up that YouTube channel and I'm going all in because I love this. This is so fun. And I turned 50 last June. So if it's my dream to teach people how to cook and be healthy and take care of their lives and their families and the people that they love, then golly, why not just jump in and do it? So, I in December of 2019, I had been plant-based for about 6 months almost at that point. And my dad had a massive heart attack and he passed away.
I'm sorry.
It was so shocking to our family. And looking back and knowing now what I know, I started to nudge him in the direction of eating plant-based. He wasn't going to have any of it. And so, and so when we were at the first couple of days when we thought maybe he might recover, I showed my mom some of the documentaries and I said, this is how you're going to eat. I'm coming to your house. I'm going to cook for you and dad every single day for however long it takes for him to get healthy. And, he never came home from the hospital. So it was a very sad time. And I mean, he was only 79. It's funny because the doctor said, well, he's lived a nice long life. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, that's not old. I mean, you had Dr. Oh my gosh, Dr. Colin, China study. Help me.
Dr. T. Colin Campbell.
Thank you, T. Colin Campbell. I was like, why am I blanking on his name? I mean, what is he, 86 now?
He's either 86 or 88. And I had Dr. Ellsworth Wareham on when he was like 103. So.
Right. So 79 is not a good long life at all. So anyway, I feel like, we can live lives. You don't have to be on pills for the rest of your life. You don't have to be going to the doctor because everything hurts all of the time. And you can't, you have all these different health problems. One of my friends, Chef Brian Rogers, he is probably the inventor of plant-based barbecue. And he was a Kansas City barbecue chef and won awards and the whole thing. And he was morbidly obese, and his doctor shared with him 6 life-threatening illnesses. He was diagnosed with these illnesses, and he went plant-based. And within 6 months, he lost 120 pounds and totally transformed his whole life. And because the doctor said, well, you're going to be on drugs for the rest of your life. And he was like, I am in my 40s. Are you kidding me? So eating this way, you can turn your life around. You can save your loved ones. I mean, it's just sad that more people don't know about it. So I'm happy to be here and just share with regular folks, like, this is easy. This is an easy thing to do. It doesn't have to be hard. You can use a crock pot. You can use an Instant Pot, slow cooker. Crock Pot's the brand. You can cook this way at home in your kitchen for your family, and they will find it delicious. You will find it delicious. And if there's things you don't like, then don't make those. Make something else. It's easy because there's so many fruits and vegetables and plants of all kinds to pick from. It's very easy to do if you're willing to pick a book up, pick Chef AJ's book up. How many books do you have now?
Well, I say 3.5 because 3 in print and 1 that's an ebook. And we're a publisher just bought my first book from 11 years ago. We're doing a 10th anniversary edition with photos. So I don't know if I'd say I have 5 or, yeah, thank you. Yeah,
that is so cool.
Yeah.
So there's so many books, cookbooks, and I know you make cooking accessible, cooking plant-based accessible and easy and fun. And so that's what I'm about. I love it.
Wanda says, how many recipes in your book? It's 100 or over 100.
100 recipes. There might be like 101 or something. In fact, I think there's probably 102 because they wanted a cheese sauce. I spell it Cheze. They wanted a cheese sauce. And so when I make cheese sauce, I do it with cashews when I'm not trying to lose weight. But I know that a lot of people don't want the nuts. They don't want the fat from the nuts, which I understand. So I said, all right, well, let's do it with beans. So I did a bean one. And then I have a tofu one. So I have 3 cheese sauces in the book, and they're all delicious. I make stuff with all of them all the time. So
that is fantastic. I wish you every success with this book. Hopefully everyone will buy it so we can get those numbers up on Amazon. Marcy says, what's your favorite meals?
Meal? Like breakfast, lunch, or dinner.
Yeah. What's her favorite meal? So maybe a few of your, I don't know. What do you like that?
Okay, so my
Breakfast, lunch, or
favorite
dinner?
thing, all right, I'm going to tell you this story because you're a Dr. McDougall fan like I am, and you're his friend, and maybe you can introduce him someday, and that would be awesome if we all go on the cruise together. But
You know what? He won't go. He will not go. It's so I excuse me for interrupting. He won't go on the cruise. He's been asked year after year. He hates to travel, even before the pandemic. His birthday's next Monday. Just by the way, he's going to be on my show.
Well, good. Then I'll come on and wish him happy birthday from the comments. But all right, so growing up in an Italian family, lasagna was a favorite. And I came across his 10-day he's got all of his, I think every recipe he's ever written is online for free. You can get. And so I went online and I found his lasagna recipe. And I remember I'm in my Vitamix. I'm mixing up the tofu ricotta and it's super liquidy. I am a directions follower. The first time I make something that's unusual to me, I'll follow the directions to a T. And then after that, I play around with it and make it my own. But that day I was like, all right, I'm going to follow this recipe to the T because apparently this is going to be good. And I remember I was pouring the ricotta sauce and it was so liquidy to my brain. I thought, this is terrible. We're going to have to order a pizza or something. I don't know. I'm going to have to order it without cheese. My family's going to be starving and they're going to be mad. I was terrified that it was going to be terrible. And I'll tell you what, it came out. It was amazing. You would not know you were not eating a traditional lasagna with the ricotta filling. I mean, and this is somebody who's like grandparents would make stuff from scratch. So including cheese from scratch. So it was really, really, really good. And in fact, I have a similar lasagna in this cookbook. So paying homage to Dr. McDougall, because I love him and I love all his food and everything. So
yeah, that Dr. Doug Lyle said that's his if he was going to be executed, his last meal would be Mary McDougall's lasagna. Jeanette says, what is your favorite meal to feed a crowd? Something that everyone would love.
That's a good question. Well, look, still lasagna is kind of a go-to because I don't know anybody who doesn't like lasagna, but one of my big favorite go-tos. So before I was plant-based, I have won chili cook-off contests, like money kind of contests at school bazaars and stuff like that. Like nothing big deal. They wouldn't put me on Good Morning America for my chili. But anyway, so I had this chili recipe that was this tried and true chili recipe that used steak. So obviously not plant-based, but nothing else in it was meat related. I mean, we used to use Worcestershire, which is technically not plant-based because it has anchovies in it. So by the way, there's a Worcestershire recipe in here, plant-based Worcestershire, super easy to make. I thought it was like the hardest thing. And I thought you needed like a bourbon barrel or something to make it in. You don't, it's like, it's pretty much, you'll look in there. It's awesome. You'll be shocked. It's mostly apple cider, believe it or not. So apple cider vinegar. So anyway, so chili is my chili whenever I want to, when people are coming in from out of town, and sometimes you don't know exactly what time they're going to necessarily arrive if they're driving or whatever. Of course, nobody's coming in from out of town today, but you know what I'm saying. I always would make a big pot of chili, have it on the stove. And whenever anybody gets here, stir yourself up some chili. So that's what I make when I'm feeding a crowd. In fact, it was this cookbook. Because I have a second cookbook coming at the end of the summer, already done, with your favorite appliance. That's all I'm going to say. But anyway, I know I'll come back. But I made a 3-bean white chili in here, and we went camping with people who were all super meat eater kind of folks. Like I was the only plant-based person amongst the crowd, and they loved this 3-bean white chili that I made, and it's in here. I got to tell you, it rivals my more traditional red kind of based chili. But the secret ingredient in the red chili is I use cocoa powder because it gives a really nice umami flavor, and cocoa powder has it's just the powder of the beans. It's not like chocolate that you're mixing in that has oil and sugar and all of the nonsense, right? So it's just cocoa powder straight up. And oh my God, it's so good.
I like the idea of a mole.
It kind of, yes, it gives you that. And I use black beans in that recipe. So actually, when I replaced the meat, I actually replaced it with bulgur wheat. And the way the bulgur wheat cooks up in the chili, it mimics the texture of ground beef. So I like to think of my recipes as a bridge for people who are, I mean, if you're all in plant-based, you're going to love it. If you're brand new to plant-based and you're like, I don't know, if you're feeding people and they're like, make this taste good, right? My recipes can do that because I always have in mind my husband, who's stubborn as a mule, and my kids who are like, they didn't choose to do this. They're happy to eat what mommy gives them. And also they have things that they like. So how can I make familiar flavors and textures and do it 100% plant-based with no oil, no processed sugar, and little to no salt? I put the salt shaker on the table and they can salt their stuff.
I think that's the best way for everybody, to let them have their own salt, because that's where you really taste it anyways, on the tip of your tongue, not when it's cooked into something.
Exactly. So, and this doesn't have any, I mean, because there's enough flavors in it, you don't need it. But again, you can put the salt shaker on the table and somebody can shake the salt and that'll be that.
Nice. Here's a question from Emily. Hi, Felicia. I'm a newbie to plant-based cooking. What spices would you recommend to stock my cupboard with? I say
all of them. So this is my spice cabinet, which is a little empty right now. So I like blends of things. So there's a chili powder recipe in here because I make my own chili powder. That's another reason why I win chili contests, because I make my own powder. And that chili powder is really easy to make if you've got a high-speed blender, which is something you should have. So I love blends, but paprika is something you should have. You want to have cumin is something you should have. In fact, cumin is, here's another little trivia bit for you. Cumin is the most used spice around the world in every kind of cuisine. Cumin is used, it's not in every single kind of cuisine, but it's the most used in cuisines around the world. So cumin is a great one to have on hand. I say you want to have cinnamon. Cinnamon works great for both savory and sweet dishes. So cinnamon is great to have. Sometimes I don't feel like mincing garlic. I purposely didn't put garlic in here because every recipe starts with onions and garlic a lot of times. So I thought, all right, I'm going to not have people mince garlic because again, we did a lot of chopping for this already. But if you wanted a little garlic flavor, I keep garlic granules as opposed to garlic powder. It's a little bit more like, it's kind of like the consistency of salt, really, if it was a way to think about that. So I keep garlic granules in there. Let me think what else. That's pretty much it. And then I also, I have in my garden, I grow basil, oregano, thyme. I have lemon thyme actually up front, mint, parsley. I use Italian flat leaf parsley, so I grow those. And so I grab my own herbs all the time and I just chop them. I have a rosemary bush. Oh my gosh, that was so exciting. When we moved here from Chicago, rosemary does not overwinter in Chicago, but down here in Tennessee, it does. When we were looking for houses, we walked by a front door to go into a home and my leg brushed against this bush. It was this ginormous, like it looked like an evergreen yew kind of thing. And when I brushed against it, I was like, oh, that's rosemary. Are you telling me rosemary grows like a bush here? And the realtor was like, what are you talking about, lady? I was so excited. So the first thing we did when we bought this house was I put rosemary outside. So, and it ended up, our tree grew and it ended up in the shade, so it didn't make it. So I've got a new rosemary little tree out there that I planted last summer, and it's already starting to sprout and get bigger already. It's beautiful. So so rosemary is one that I use rosemary a lot because it's got a really strong flavor. You know, when you're eating something with rosemary in it, and to me, it's a really delicious kind of flavor. So ginger is something you want to have in the house. Like I said, I keep ginger in the freezer at all times. And so, because in the fridge, sometimes you forget it's there, it gets buried under other things, right? And it gets funky and soft and not good. In the freezer, it'll last like, I don't know, forever. And I don't even peel it once it's in the freezer. I just use my microplane and I just grate it right into whatever I'm making. And so, like I said, by the time I got to that point in this cookbook, I thought, you know what? I use a lot of like an inch of the knob of ginger for things. So I thought, well, let's use the ginger powder this time. So you could either have ginger powder or the fresh root. I like the fresh root. Just because it gives you it's a more powerful flavor. And I also throw it in smoothies. Oh, it's so good in smoothies. Ginger in a smoothie is, love it.
Gotcha.
All right. So wait, we have one more book to give away.
Yeah. So why don't we ask something where they have to put some thought into it? Like, What was the most profound thing that happened to you since going plant-based, or the best thing that happened, something like that?
Best thing that happened since going plant-based. I love that.
All right,
Best
go.
thing.
Well,
Go.
no, okay, you got to be US only though, guys, and you got to be on YouTube so we can see it.
Yes.
This is to win a free cookbook of Felicia's book. And we have a very nice comment I want to say. The How Within said, "Thank you, Chef AJ. I will get her book just for the Chipotle chilies and this very recipe, which I want to make now." Yeah, that's what really impressed me. And again, the cookbook has no oil, no salt, or salt is optional. And there is some maple syrup, which you can always substitute date syrup for. But
yep. Page 148.
Right. And she has a recipe to make your own date syrup and your own Worcestershire sauce. So it's basically has my endorsement. I think I might have even endorsed it now.
You did endorse the book.
I only have the Kindle version, so I'm not seeing that, but it's SOS free. Yeah.
Oh, well, then you need to send me your mailing address and you will get a copy.
Oh my God, I would love one. And I'm booking already for September. So let's make sure you get on the schedule for your next book. And also, I don't know if you'd ever be comfortable doing this. I know that Kathleen's watching. You said she doesn't really like to cook, but what I've been doing is a lot of Iron Chefs on the show, or I'm going to be doing weeks. Like that's where you cook with somebody else side by side, same ingredients. So
is there a contest? Do I win something? I love to win stuff.
It's kind of hard to judge it, when you can't taste it, but it's really just about the fun and everything.
But it is fun. I would love to. That would be super fun.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I see so many, you know what? Because there's so many good ones, but I'm gonna go with but you're gonna have to share the true story. So I'm gonna go to Lissa Worson. She got her eyesight back, literally. So we need to hear about that, because it's the second time I've heard that there was actually a patient in True North that was pretty much virtually, legally blind, and went to True North and did the program and was able to see again. So
and she'll be able to read my book now.
That's right. Amazing. Yeah, she does. Yeah, so that's fast. So congratulations, Lissa. Lissa, email me your email, and Wendy Kennedy. I still haven't gotten your email. So without your email, or at least I don't want you to post your home address in the chat. But if we can't reach you, we can't give you the book. But I hope you guys will consider getting the book, even if you didn't win it. It was so generous of Felicia to offer 2 free copies. Marcy says, "I love this, ladies, her recipes and her style." We're getting a lot of compliments on your apron as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This was a gift from my sister-in-law, who actually is, she was plant-based before I was, and she's new to the family. She and my brother-in-law have been married. They just celebrated their 3rd wedding anniversary the other day. So we do grab bag, in the family for holidays, for Christmas. And so she got me one year, and that was the first year that I was plant-based. And so she got me Mary Campbell's cookbook and this apron. And I was like, "That's perfect. I love it."
That's
so
great.
I'm all about
it's fantastic. Well, I didn't know your story about having cancer, and I don't believe you told it in the cookbook.
Because I only had so many words.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that could be another book right there then. So.
Well, so I have written about it in some of my other books, and I have video about it that I'll be putting on my YouTube channel. But the short version is, I had a medical miracle. I was, and again, we don't have a ton of time to get into it, but because I was speaking around the world, and I was an early adopter on Twitter, and, had a bunch of followers at the time. Anyway, so I sent out an email the night before my surgery, and I just said, if you're the praying kind, please pray. If you're the visualizing kind, visualize everything going well. If you're energy kind, I need all the good vibes I can get. And I just put this out there into the world, and I was prayed for in languages I can't even speak, and literally around the world. And I was diagnosed from a sample of biopsy tissue. So it was definitive. It wasn't like they were guessing from an x-ray. They actually had tissue. And the next day when I came out of surgery, my thoracic surgeon said, "I've never seen anything like this before, but when you were on the table, I had to do research because I'd never seen what you had. And I saw all the preliminary testing. It was this kind of lung cancer. One of the doctors gave me a 60% chance of living for 5 years. I didn't go back to that guy. But she said, there's small cell lung cancer, non-small cell lung cancer, and then there's weird third kind. And Harvard University had done a study on this weird third kind that in 20 years, only 12 people had this. And of those 12 people, it never spread, it never came back, and nobody ever died. That's what you had. You're cured.
That's amazing. You have a medical miracle and a pandemic pivot.
all the things.
Right. Hey, so Evelyn said, are all the recipes for the slow cooker? And yes, because it's called a slow cooker cookbook. However,
Yes.
I think I could do the one you did today in the Instant Pot. I bet I could if I want.
Yes. So if you have an Instant Pot, your Instant Pot is a slow cooker. If you're familiar with, if you're Chef AJ and you're familiar with cooking and you know times and so forth, and you can open up a cookbook and go, well, how long does it take to make another recipe that has potatoes and carrots in it? You know, it's probably, I would guess probably somewhere between 7 and 12 minutes on high, if I was going to guess, would probably do the trick. So the one thing that you would want to be careful of is if there would be too much food to overflow. You don't want to meet that max line if you've got an Instant Pot. But I have another thing is I make recipes from here on the stove and in my Dutch oven all the time, because if sometimes I just don't think of it. And a couple of weeks ago, I put on my Facebook, I inspired my own stupid self. I was like, oh, this sounds really good. I'm going to make this. And I made it on the stove. So you can translate the recipes fairly easily to the stove or the oven. And I, on my new website, plantbasedhomecooking.com, I have recipes there that are not slow cooker recipes. In fact, I'm only allowed to share like 20% of the recipes from the book in public. So, so most of my recipes that are on my, and will be also on coming forward, because it's, remember, brand new baby website. So there's only a handful of recipes there right now. But then I also share recipes pretty much every day in my Facebook group, Plant-Based Home Cooking. So, and many of them are mine, but some of them are recipes that I've found and I've tried. So, so sometimes I'll make one of Dr. McDougall's recipes. There's a chef called Minimalist Baker, and she doesn't always do 100% whole food plant-based, but she's moving in that direction. And so does a lot of things that are whole food plant-based, no SOS. So I'll share some of those recipes, and occasionally I'll share a recipe that has oil in it or something. Again, because I have a lot of new people or people just exploring, and sometimes their brains get like, what? You can't cook with oil. I remember the first time I thought that, and I sauteed an onion in my cast iron skillet, and I was like, this is going to stick for days and not taste good at all. I was super wrong then too. Because you can saute in broth and it's delicious, or water, and it's still delicious. So I've learned a lot, and it's been fun to experiment with plant-based eating and my recipes, and switching family favorites into plant-based, and then picking up new recipes and creating new things that I would have never in a million years thought of making before. And now we make and we eat regularly. So really fun.
Yeah, no, thank you. Let's see. Margaret says, I'm excited about getting the cookbook. And there's just lots of nice comments. So I love your backsplash tiles. People love your backsplash and your baskets as well.
Okay. So I just, Chef AJ, I did a lot of things for you. This just went in on Friday, and I grouted it myself with my own fingers on Saturday.
Well, good. I love backsplashes. I never knew what they were until I moved into a house, and they're really beautiful.
They're really pretty. So yeah. So thank you for noticing my backsplash.
And they did. And Linda says, Felicia really gets me excited to cook new recipes, and the medical stories are so fascinating too. Yeah, that is so interesting. Wow. Why can the books not be mailed to Canada? Because
so just the free ones, for the free giveaways, you can buy them on Amazon anywhere in the world, and Amazon will ship them. So it's just for the free giveaway. The publisher only ships to the US. So that's all.
That makes sense. Well, thank you so much. And thank you, Kathleen, who's watching live, for the wonderful recommendation. And I wish you every success with the book. And thank you for being plant-based and for creating such delicious recipes.
Thank you so much for having me, Chef AJ.
It is my pleasure, and I will have you back. And thanks all of you for watching another episode of Chef AJ Live. Come back tomorrow when we have, again, 2 shows. At 11 o'clock, I have a wonderful integrative physician named Dr. Jyoti Patel. It's not Jyoti, Jyoti, J-Y-O-T-I. Sounds like Jyoti, but it's Jyoti. And at 2 p.m., I have Kiyomi from CME because we've had a lot of doctors on recently, most recently Christy Funk, who's a breast cancer surgeon, talking about the benefits of green tea. A lot of people didn't want to drink it because of the caffeine, which we learned about from today's guest, maybe not so good for people, but she has a caffeine-free one that's completely caffeine-free, and she's going to talk about it and about the benefits. So I hope to see you all back here tomorrow. And, you shouldn't watch just because of prizes, but now with all these these giveaways, there may be giveaways. You never know, but you have to be watching live. Thanks again, Felicia, and good luck tomorrow when the book launches.